Let's have a late night chat, shall we? A discussion about stabilizers is long overdue. If you're new to embroidery or if you're seasoned, stabilizers can be one of the most confusing parts of knowing what to do when it comes to embroidery. So, in this video, we are going to cover whether you even need stabilizers, and if you do, what kind of stabilizer do you need? And also at the very end, I'll give you a special link that will take you to an ebook that will have you stitching just like a professional. Let's go ahead and dive into this topic of stabilizers. So, as some of you may know, I started doing embroidery in December of 2014. I had just gotten a new embroidery machine from Walmart, a 4x4 embroidery machine, and I had absolutely no idea really what I was doing. I saw that an embroidery machine looked like a sewing machine, so I felt like because I already knew how to sew, it should be easy to embroider. I was right, but I was also very wrong. The first project that I did was a washcloth set for a cousin of mine who was an AKA, and I decided to embroider on some washcloths for her, and I did not use stabilizer. Now, as you'll see in the picture, it turned out okay. It wasn't bad, but there was a lot of frustration with me trying to embroider that with no stabilizer. So much so that I actually put the embroidery machine to the side and didn't try it again until the following year in 2015.
One eternity later.
When the opportunity came up to do a baby shower gift for a friend, at that point, I was so determined to do that gift for her that I took the time to learn the basics of embroidery. Now, by no means was there any professional level schooling or anything because I could barely afford the software program that I was using at the time, but I did learn the basics. Because of all of those trials that I went through, I learned the hard way that stabilizers are a pretty important part of doing embroidery. But why is that? Let's take a look. So, what is stabilizer and why do you even need it? Do you remember watching a grandparent do embroidery? It could have been needlepoint or it could have even been cross stitch. The grandparent would use a hoop to hold the fabric tight as they took the time to interweave threads in that hoop to create beautiful designs throughout the fabric. Now, that hoop held that fabric tight or stabilized the fabric for them to do those intricate designs by hand. They knew just how tight to pull the thread in that delicate fabric, and they also knew how many stitches they could put in a certain area of fabric. Well, now fast forward to today. We're using machinery to do that similar embroidery on fabric. And the machinery can put in somewhere around 600 to, on in the instance of these multi-needle machines, do upwards of 1,000 stitches plus per minute on a small area of fabric. Just simple hooping that fabric is no longer enough. So considering all of that, now we definitely know that using stabilizer is super important in most all embroidery that you're going to do. That stabilizer is being used essentially as a cast, so to speak, to help keep that fabric nice and still, keep it from pulling, from puckering while the embroidery process is underway. But the stabilizer is there for a reason, to help make sure that your embroidery is going to turn out absolutely gorgeous. As a side note, the stabilizer also helps hold all of those stitches in the event that the fabric can't hold all of them. So the weight of the stitches will rest squarely on the stabilizer as opposed to the fabric being the only thing holding those stitches in place. So now that we know what stabilizer is for, do you really need stabilizer? In most instances. So there are two main types of stabilizer. There's tearaway, and there's cutaway. The majority of stabilizers fits in one or the other category. Now, there are some specialty stabilizers like water soluble, but the specialty kind of has its own arena, and we'll go into the specialty categories as well a little bit. But the main two categories is tearaway, cutaway. Later on in this video, we'll talk about which one do you need, or do you need both. But for now, DIME Designs in Machine Embroidery has a stabilizer sample pack that I want to share with you so that you can see it and use it to help you see visually what some of these stabilizers are. I'll have a link in the description of where you can go and get your own sample pack so that you will have it on hand in the event that you do need to expand your stabilizer collection for the projects that you will be undertaking in your embroidery journey. But for now, let's switch over to the table where I can lay out those samples and we can go over them. All right, so here is the stabilizer sample pack, and it says inside this book you will find a stabilizer for every fabric. Our premium stabilizers are well proven as the highest quality available on the market, produced in the most popular sizes and weights. We have included a large sample of our most popular products for you to remove and test for your intended use. And there's a smaller sample to leave in the book as a reference for future purchases. So here is the smaller sample pack. And then, as you saw earlier, inside these are the larger sample pieces in the stabilizer sample stabilizer pack. Okay. And I also have this embroiderer's compass, and we'll go over that here in a moment as well. But for now, they have these samples in here, and as you see, they're fairly large enough where you can do definitely a 4x4 project. Might even be able to do a 5x7. I don't know. I would have to get the hoop and check that. But for the time being, our goal is to just go over stabilizers. And they have their stabilizers color coded to help you out. Tearaway-ish. The tear type is green. The cut type is blue. And then we have water soluble, which is a stabilizer, but it's a topping. So the first thing let's go over is the tearaway stabilizers. And they have, let's turn it this way so that you can read it. They have a safe tear. So, and then we can go into detail on their website. They will tell you what the specialty ones are for. And safe tear would be a special one because I don't normally see a safe tear. All right. And then we have heavy soft tearaway. We have light tearaway. So when they're talking about heavy, lightweight, medium weight, or they'll say 3 ounce, 2 ounce, something like that, they're talking about the density and of the material. So light generally goes with lighter weight fabrics. Heavy generally goes with the heavier, denser fabrics. So light tearaway, medium tearaway, and heavy tearaway, which is usually for hats, cap backing. And then they even have extra heavy cap backing available at DIME. So your tearaways are used in certain applications. And like I said, we'll go over that here in a moment. And then let's look at our cutaway. So they have a light cutaway, which in a lot of instances, they look the same, but the tearaway is more papery feeling. It feels more like paper, whereas the cutaway feels more, see how you can barely hear it scratch? It feels more like fabric. It's more fibrous to me. So light cutaway, then you have medium cutaway. And again, same principle applies. The weight also correlates with your fabric. And then heavy cutaway. And then they have no show light, which is a cutaway as well. Then they have no show, and this is the mesh. It's a cutaway. Then they have Poly Pro Performance. So this is for your performance fabrics, such as sportswear. And then you have Stable Sport Stretchy Knit. So this is definitely for the sportswear that stretches. So this will definitely keep your fabric from stretching while it's being stitched on in the hoop. So these are your cutaways. Now the density or the weight of the stabilizer, I'm not going to go into that because you will find that information in the ebook that I'm going to link to you at the end of the video. But the specialty stabilizers are here. We've got peel and stick. We've got sew and wash. Adhesive sew and wash, if there's anything. And then we have fuse, sew soft, fuse me, sew and heat, fuse and tear, fuse and stick, water soluble. And then at the very front, we also had tear and wash, which is part of the tearaway. Okay, so let me know in the comments below, did you realize that there were this many different types of stabilizers? Let me know in the comments below if you did or if you did not, if that surprises you. Another thing you may not have known is, although all of these stabilizers are white, now some of this brown paper is to separate the different layers, the different groups of stabilizers. But although these are white, a lot of these stabilizers come in black or a tan color. So here is a heavyweight black cutaway stabilizer that I often use in cheer teams jackets because the inside of the jacket is black, and I kind of wanted the stabilizer to match the inside of the jacket so that when the kids take their jackets off, it's not the white stabilizer, it's the black. So mine is for appearance purposes, but in your sheer white or light colored fabrics, sometimes you don't want the white to show around the outside of the back from the backside through the shirt. So that's where you would use the dark or the tan color stabilizer. Now, this is a question I would like for you to ask yourself. In thinking about all of this, and I'm sure many people have heard throughout their, where for those of you who have been doing embroidery, I'm sure you've heard, oh, well, I only use cutaway or I only use tearaway. I don't need any other stabilizers. This stabilizer or that stabilizer works for everything that I do. And that may be the case for that person. But the question that I would like for you to consider is, if there's all of these stabilizers that have been made, why were they made if they didn't have a specific purpose to help you get the best out of your embroidery? So there are valid reasons why they have all of these different types of stabilizers, and we'll go into that now. So DIME, like I mentioned before, they have quite a few helpful tools to get you on the right road to doing embroidery. So they have what's called the Embroiderers Compass by DIME. And what this compass does, it's front and back. It gives you the information that you need to make the right choice in choosing a stabilizer. Hooping is important, so you definitely need to know how to hoop, but you also need to know the right stabilizer to use with your project. So this Embroiderer's Compass is super helpful. So let's take for instance, if you were doing, let's say you're doing sweatshirts. So sweatshirts is on here, right here on the side. So there's an arrow up here. Let's turn it to sweatshirts. And when you turn it to sweatshirts, this says, here's the stabilizer that you would want to use. And the stabilizer that it is suggesting is no-show mesh or medium cutaway. And water-soluble topping is optional. So they're giving you the recipe for success with this compass. So when you're doing a sweatshirt, according to the embroiderer's compass, tearaway really isn't the best solution. Does that mean that you are going to go to embroidery jail if you decide to use tearaway anyway? No, to each his own. But if you have issues out of your embroidery on the sweatshirt because you want to use tearaway instead of using the no-show mesh or medium cutaway, then you might want to revisit what stabilizer you're actually using. She also, down here, it also has what needle type would be helpful to use. And then over here, the size needle that's helpful. And it recommends 75 and 11, but it also says a light ballpoint needle or stretch needle. It's the same thing. And then they have helpful comments. Hoop with no-show mesh for small designs or medium cutaway for larger design areas. Water-soluble topping will give cleaner edges on heavily ribbed fleece and hoop all layers. So this is helpful to give you the roadmap that you need from the start in order to get the flawless embroidery that you want. On this side, let's see if we have a t-shirt. Knits lightweight t-shirts and onesies, no show mesh for left chest size lightweight cutaway for left chest size, and then lightweight cutaway for larger designs. And then it has the needles, hoop with stabilizer to reduce shifting, apply embroidery spray adhesive to the stabilizer and adhere to the reverse side of the fabric before you hoop it. So here you have a nice compass to help you that you can turn to whatever the materials are around this compass, from vinyl to quilter's cotton to spandex to silk, and on the opposite side, faux fur, pile fleece, metallic thread embroidery. That's a good one. Socks and velvet terry cloth. There's no shortage on here of what wasn't considered for learning what stabilizer needs to go under your project. Definitely check out Designs in Machine Embroidery. The link is in the description below to help you with navigating the stabilizer landscape. So now that we've done a brief overview of stabilizers, what they are, why you need them, how to determine what you need, and the different types that are out there, is that all you need for successful embroidery? The little bit of information that I gave. Well, there is an ebook out there, very affordable, a very easy read ebook that will get you to a professional level status of knowing all about stabilizers, how they apply, the different types. It goes even more into detail in regards to the different stabilizers that are out there and how they apply in your embroidery. Again, I can't emphasize enough that if you are already doing embroidery and you limited your embroidery to a certain type of stabilizer and it's been working for you, that's great. You can keep what you're doing. But in the event that you have issues, refer back to the video or grab the embroiderer's compass so that you can help make sure that your embroidery stays frustration free. As far as the ebook is concerned, please click the link in the description, grab that ebook. It will be very helpful to you. And the ebook even showed me where I have been wrong for many years. And if you're wondering how I've been wrong, check the ebook and it will answer the question for you. So thank you so very much for watching our video. I hope that it was helpful somewhat for you. At the very least, guide you to where you can get surefire help from those who have been doing embroidery for a lot longer than my few 10 years. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is to help keep you having happy embroidery. We want you to be without any stress or frustration because embroidery is fun. But especially if you're trying to run a business, then you definitely want to arm yourself with the proper industry standard knowledge of stabilizers and how they work in your business. So thank you for hanging out with me this evening and learning more about stabilizers.